Hey guys, it's Chris and welcome to your 6th Objective-C tutorial. In this tutorial I'm just going to go over exactly what happened in the program we made last time, and then we're going to make a few adjustments and actually add a subclass to it. So let's just start in the header file and I'll kind of explain what's happening. So when we created this, it said just Chris at interface, Chris class, colon NS object, and then at end. And basically right here, this is just stating that this Chris class we just made is a subclass of NSObject. And NSObject is a class that's in the Objective-C library, and it contains methods like init right here and alloc, and this is why Chris class is a subclass of NSObject, and that's just for the reason that we need it to allocate memory and initialize. So usually when you're creating new classes, there'll be a subclass of NSObject, or there'll be a subclass of a subclass. And it could go as far down as you like. Even like the 10th subclass below Chris class will still have all the methods that NSObject has, along with all the methods of Chris class and every other class. So as we see, Chris class has these 3 methods, and it has everything that NSObject has. But we created 3 just for our class that we made. And we started with a minus sign or a hyphen, and that's saying, it's telling the compiler that this is an instance method right here. These are all instance methods. And basically, an instance method is just a method that acts upon an instance of the class. So when we create these instance methods, setAge, setWait, and print, they're all acting on this instance, Chris. They're not acting on Chris class itself. And the only other possible thing you could put here is a plus sign. And that plus sign would make it a class method, and that's where this method would act upon Chris class and it would change parts of the class. But we don't want to do that. We want to keep our class intact and just use instance methods for now. And next you see we have a colon and then it says int a for setAge, and basically we're just letting the compiler know, hey, I'm going to take in an integer variable into this method, and that's why it ends with colon and then int a instead of just like print here. It doesn't take in any arguments at all. It just says print and then semicolon. But here for setAge and setWait, we both take in integer arguments, and those are these int a and int w we see here. I think the only thing I should point out that's in the main Chris class file is these 2 things right here. These are called member declarations, and they specify what type of data is stored in a Chris class object or a Chris class instance. And there's only 2 types we have, and we made it int age and int weight, and that's so we could have this age and weight print out. And when we go back to the main here, basically what we did is we said, hey, we're going to use Chris class, and here's our instance. And for this instance, we allocated some memory, and then we initialized it. And after that, we just said we want to use setAge method, setWait method, which we both had to insert variables there in order for it to run. And then we just wanted to print it all out. Pretty simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new file. It's also an Objective-C class, and we're going to name it sub, because I'm very creative like that. And so we've got our sub-h and sub-m. Let's head over to our sub-h file and see how sub is also a subclass of NSObject. But we want ours to be a subclass of our class that we made, Chris class. So what we have to do is import chrisclass.h. And now we can make this a subclass of Chris, which is pretty cool. So we're going to add a method, because now sub contains all the methods that Chris class has, which is setAge, setWait, print, and also all of NSObjects, the init and alloc methods. We're going to make a method of our own called setFavoriteNumber, and it's going to take in an integer. We're going to take in the integer fn, favorite number. We're also going to override one of our parent class's methods. We're going to override the print method that's in Chris class with our very own print method that we're making in sub. So now we go over to our implementation, our M folder, and we're going to before we start, we have to make a member declaration. Like we had age and weight for Chris class, we have our favorite number that we want to print out. So we're going to say int favnum. There we go. Next we're going to type in our void set. There we go. It already knows what we want to do. I like that. We're going to go favnum equals this little argument that we brought in, favnum equals fn. Next we're going to do our overriding method, our print. We're going to make this nslog. We overrode our parent class with a smiley face because we're cool like that. And we're also going to use it to say favorite number. Whoops, let's misspell it because that's awesome. Don't forget %i, and then we're going to have our favnum because that's what we set it. And this should just about do it, but don't forget, now we got to go back to our main, and before we initialize a subclass instance, we need to import our sub. So we're going to go sub.h. Now that it's imported, we can say sub. We're going to make it substitute, just so we don't get confused. I was about to write sub again just because I'm lazy. Bad habits, man. So substitute equals, we have to allocate and initialize it, so we're going to go, it's a part of our subclass, we're going to allocate, alloc, and then we have substitute, and we're going to say substitute init. We want to init that instance. Now that we did that, let's go ahead and say substitute set favorite number. Favorite number, let's go 3 because Dwayne Wade is awesome. And now substitute print. So let's print this. We run, compiling, build succeeded, sweet, I did nothing wrong. And you see we have all this output. I'm Chris, 19 years old, 450. We overrode our parent class, and favorite number is 3. So basically this first output is from this Chris print right here, and it printed from the Chris class, and that's why I said it had this output. But when we did the substitute print, the compiler looked for the first method of print, like the first method named print, and it starts with the lowest class. So it started with sub, and it found print right there. So it's like, alright, I don't need to look any farther. I'm using that print. And so it overrode its parent class. That should about do it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.